Welcome. Today we're analyzing one of the most dynamic yet challenging iGaming markets in the world, Kazakhstan.
That's right. And as the gambling databases research team, our job is to go deep, beyond the surface level numbers.
We explore everything: local regulations, tax, player experience, operator conditions. The goal is to give you a really clear, data-driven picture of what makes each market tick.
And Kazakhstan is fascinating because there's this immediate tension. On one hand, you have a very structured legal environment. Recent reforms are positioning it as a serious regional hub.
But on the other hand,
On the other, our assessment found really high barriers to entry, even with what looked like incredibly low license fees.
well, what did the numbers say?
We rated its operator score at just 5.2 out of 10. That dragged the overall market attractiveness down to a 6.8. It's a market with a lot of potential, but also a lot of traps.
Okay, let's unpack this regulatory landscape then. What is the actual legal status for gambling in Kazakhstan, both for, say, a physical casino and an online bookmaker?
The whole industry operates under a pretty clear framework, primarily law number 219 on gaming business.
Okay.
Land-based activity is heavily restricted. It's only allowed in these specific designated zones. But online gambling is fully permitted.
As long as you're licensed, I assume.
Exactly. As long as you're licensed and you comply with some very strict rules, things like mandatory local server hosting and really robust consumer protection policies, KYC and AML.
And who's the main regulator watching over all this?
That would be the Ministry of Tourism and Sports, specifically their Committee for Regulation of Gambling and Lotteries. They're the ones holding all the cards.
All right, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The licensing. It seems almost too easy, which I'm sure is a big draw for new operators. Can you confirm the speed and the cost?
Absolutely, and the speed is exceptional compared to global standards. We're talking up to 15 working days for an application review.
15 days.
15. And the annual license fees are, well, deceptively low. For bookmakers or totalizators, it's around $3,900.
$3,900 annually.
Yep. And for casinos, you're looking at about $23,000, maybe $24,000. It's seen as a huge strength on paper.
But you called the low license fee a trap. So what are the critical compliance obligations that turn this easy entry into such a high-friction market?
This really gets to the core question, control. The compliance is just incredibly intensive.
So beyond the usual KYC and AML checks?
Oh, way beyond. Operators have to implement all of that, plus age verification, responsible gambling policies.
Yeah.
But the critical piece, the real game changer, is the government's Unified State Information System, the ESU.
The ESU, what is that exactly?
Think of it as a centralized monitoring system for all betting. It's not just reporting. It enforces real-time monitoring of every single bet, and it automatically identifies and blocks restricted players.
So if the regulatory side is that demanding, the consumer side must be incredible to make it worthwhile. Let's talk about the player base and the economic indicators.
It is undeniably strong. I mean, we are looking at a market that is fundamentally driven by a young demographic.
How young?
The median age is about 32.7 years, out of a population of around 20.3 million. And here's the key number. The active player base is estimated at 5 to 6 million people.
Wait, 5 to 6 million? That's a huge market penetration rate, something like 30% of the entire population.
It's massive. And it points to incredibly high digital engagement.
Right. It has to.
Internet penetration is high, 79%, and mobile penetration is over 120%.
Meaning people have multiple devices.
Precisely. And all of that feeds into a pretty healthy average revenue per user, or ARPU, of about $200 annually.
And with that volume of players, $200 a person adds up fast.
It does. It contributed to a total market turnover of roughly $2 billion in 2023, and we project a compound annual growth rate, a KGR, of about 10.3% through 2026.
So what are these millions of players spending their money on? What are the main preferences?
Sports betting absolutely leads the market in participation. It's not even close. That's followed by lottery games and then slot machines, both land-based and online. And that high mobile penetration means the convenience of app-based betting is what really drives consumer behavior.
I'm sure. Digital payments must be pretty solid too then.
Oh, very robust. Credit and debit cards are still king, about 58%. But e-wallets like Kaspi Pay and YouMoney are gaining fast, making up around 15%. The infrastructure for digital transactions is all there.
Okay, so this brings us back to the core challenge. The potential is huge, but the operator E-score is only 5.2. So let's get into those critical risk warnings. starting with what you called the infrastructure nightmare.
Right. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, the operational requirements are the biggest single impediment.
And it starts with the servers.
It does. Operators must host all gaming servers physically within Kazakhstan's borders, period.
Which is an immediate deal breaker for a lot of global companies.
It is. It completely prevents the use of standard global cloud stacks. So your AWS or your Azure servers in a foreign region. Forget it. You have to buy and maintain expensive physical hardware in-country.
And that's on top of the mandatory physical presence, right? You can't just run this from an office in Malta.
No, you absolutely cannot operate remotely. A local legal entity, a physical office, local staff, it's all mandatory.
Or not just any staff.
Right. You need resident financial and technical directors, people on the ground who are legally accountable for the operation.
Wow. So that makes customer acquisition extremely difficult, especially when you add in the marketing constraints. Tell us about this advertising blackout.
The severe advertising restrictions are a huge issue. They effectively ban all outdoor and online advertising outside of the designated gambling zones and a few official channels.
So no standard digital ads, no Facebook, no Google ads.
Prohibited, which, as you can imagine, completely cripples a standard marketing funnel. It drives the estimated customer acquisition cost, the CAC, to an extremely high $300 plus.
Hold on, let's stop there. If the ARPU, the average revenue, is $200 a year, but the cost to acquire that customer is over $300, you're starting deep in the red.
Exactly. The math just doesn't work unless you're relying almost entirely on very expensive, tightly controlled sponsorships.
Okay, finally, let's talk about the ESU monitoring system again. There's a unique challenge there with who is legally banned from gambling. Who are we talking about?
This is such a crucial detail. The restricted player groups. It includes civil servants, military personnel, and most notably, any citizens with outstanding debts.
Banning people with outstanding debts, that's a huge segment of any population.
It is. And operators have to integrate with the ESU to automatically block these users. It removes a statistically high volume segment from the addressable market right off the bat.
So after all that, what about taxation? They've paid for the license, they've built the infrastructure. How does the government take its cut?
Through what we call a double taxation structure.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough.
How so?
First, operators pay GGR taxes. That's gross gaming revenue, which is between 12 and 18% depending on the game type.
Okay, that's on top of a corporate income tax.
And a big one. The CIT is set to rise to 25% effective 2026. When you combine them, the effective tax rate on revenue gets very high, around 35 to 40%.
So we've covered the structure, the potential, and the massive operational hurdles. The low license fee is, without a doubt, a trap that disguises the real costs of local infrastructure and that complex compliance.
It is. Kazakhstan is a legal and stable market, but it's high friction. It's really only suitable for large, well-funded operators who are prepared to fully commit to becoming a local Kazakh company. Physical assets, local staff, the whole package.
So the final thought for you to consider is this fundamental trade-off. The government gives you clarity and a protected market.
A very high player access score of 8.5 out of 10.
Right. But in return, it demands total transparency and control.
Which means regulatory compliance, not your marketing budget, becomes the single greatest determinant of whether you succeed or fail.
For the full text of this and all our other country reports, you can visit our website at gamblingdatabases.com.
Thanks for joining us for this analysis.